today I want to talk to you about hyper-local food, and I'll start with a little bit of my background. This is my dad, and he was a huge inspiration to me. He helped me and my business partner start the West End Bakery, and that is where my passion for hyper-local food began. Since then, I have moved on. I work in the nonprofit world now for Bountiful Cities, and we work on long-term food security, and that is through urban agriculture or hyper-local food. And hyper-local food can look a lot of different ways. This is my front yard. And it can look like this. It doesn't have to. It's defined as food that is grown within walking distance of where it is consumed. But what is local food then? Local food is defined as food that's grown within 400 miles of where it is consumed, or up to 400 miles. I don't know about y'all, but I'd be pretty darn hungry if I had to walk 400 miles to get a meal. So is this even possible? Can we grow that much food hyper-locally? This is our harvest from our front yard last summer, or part of it. We grew 5 bushels of sweet potatoes and 300 pounds of winter squash. Quite a bit of food can be grown hyper-locally, but it does not have to look like a garden. It can look like chestnuts that are dropping into the road right now. It could look like mushroom logs if you have a shady yard, or maybe you like chickens and you like chicken eggs, and it could look like that. So where did all of this passion for hyper-local food start for me? It started with food security, because I really would love for everyone to have access to plenty of fresh food. But this is what food security looks like much of the time. It looks like emergency food, pre-packaged, coming from very, very far away, having a huge climate impact. Sometimes it comes from across the country, and sometimes it comes from around the world. So also, hyperlocal food is much less likely to get wasted. Almost 40% of the food that is produced in this country ends up in the landfill. And hyperlocal food is much more likely to end up in the compost pile than in the landfill. So with all of these amazing reasons to have hyperlocal food, why do we still have lawns? I'm not gonna lie, growing food can be challenging. And not only can it be challenging, but we have lost so much knowledge over the years. Generationally, people used to pass down the knowledge of how to grow food from their children and then to their grandchildren. And because most people don't have extensive gardens these days, that knowledge is being lost. My niece came to visit, and I took her to the tailgate market, and I said, go grab us some corn over there. And she said, what corn? Corn is yellow. And that's all green. And I was shocked. She had never seen corn. She was 11 years old. So the Bountiful Cities Feast program starts really young. It is incredible what young children can absorb and what they're capable of. We start with preschoolers, and they cook in the wintertime. And then in the spring and in the fall, we take them outside to the garden, and they learn how to plant seeds, and they learn how to harvest vegetables, and they learn how to save seeds. And by the time they graduate from 5th grade, they know how to grow a garden from start to finish, and they know how to cook food and make it taste good to them. So what if you didn't grow up with Feast? And what if you didn't grow up with parents and grandparents teaching you how to grow? Well, Bountiful Cities has identified that community gardens are actually a really great place for folks to learn from one another. A lot of community gardens are places where people come with a little bit of knowledge, but maybe not a whole lot. And they leave with vegetables. And not only do they leave with more knowledge, they leave with knowledge of their neighbors. Okay, so what if you're not into gardening? I get it. Not everybody is a gardener. You can still advocate for food being grown in public spaces. The Asheville Buncombe Food Policy Council does just that. And we envision food growing on all of the amazing greenways in Asheville. What if you could walk your dog and simultaneously pick your breakfast? Would be awesome, right? So gathering together with neighbors is also possible. You can gather with your neighbors and help in a food forest. The Dr. George Washington Carver Edible Park is right off of Charlotte Street, and we have work days once a month. Just had one today. And there are persimmons on the ground waiting for people to come and pick them up. We can also support little farm stands like these in my neighborhood. One of them is in my front yard. But I'd like for you to just imagine what it would be like if we had one of these farm stands in every neighborhood where we can share our extra and everyone could have access to fresh, local, hyper local food.